He will be presenting a paper titled Reimaging of Shakespeare's Women Characters in Indian Cinema and in Assamese Drama.
Hello, thank you. Thank you very much.
Let's get your thoughts for you.
We have.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, that's right. We have already beautiful presentations. We have listened, though we don't have too many listeners. Still, those who are very little amount, still we are listening very carefully. But I won't take a lot of time. I'll read out some of the key points, then I'll show the visuals, because instead of the words, I suppose audiovisual will attract you much more. I am Parthajit Baruah. I come from a small state called Assam. Assam is situated in the northern part of India. Assam is very rich culturally, socially, as far as heritage is concerned. The subject I have taken is the reimaging of women in Indian cinema and in Assamese play. When I talk about the Indian cinema, it is a huge, so I have chosen some particular characters in Visual Vadu's trilogy. And as far as Assamese narratives are concerned in plays, so I have chosen one latest play called Himanshu Prasad Das. He's a playwright. Himanshu Prasad Das' latest Assamese play called Lady Macbeth. So Shakespeare, in fact, came to the scene, dramatic scene in the history of Assam, long way back in the first half of the 18th century. But this is for the first time Himanshu Prasad Das, who staged Lady Macbeth some days back, was the first to experiment on the character of woman in the context of Assamese culture. Lady Macbeth is named to focus on the woman empowerment. In an Assamese society, or in a larger scale in an Indian society, women are always supposed to be obedient, which was supposed to be in the Elizabethan age. Women are obedient. They have to live under the veil. They are the secondary person. Their identity is hidden behind the husband. Those were the images. But this particular play by Himanshu Prasad Das, Lady Macbeth, he has changed the name from Macbeth to Lady Macbeth. Interestingly, he has talked about the role of women in the power politics. What happened? It was Lady Macbeth who instigates Macbeth in the play, in the Assamese play. Lady Macbeth instigates Macbeth to kill Duncan. And definitely Macbeth kills Duncan. Suddenly, a witch arrives in front of the Lady Macbeth. Then there is a conversation between Lady Macbeth and the witch. I'll read out the conversation that Himanshu Prasad Das has used in his play, just 4 lines. I'll read out. Lady Macbeth was alone. The ghost appears, the witch appears. Lady Macbeth asks, "Who are you?" Witch says, "Perhaps it is I, perhaps it is you. Perhaps it is I, perhaps it is you. Are you afraid, Lady Macbeth?" Witch, "You are so bent on to make Macbeth the king. So deep is your love for Macbeth." Lady Macbeth says, "Yeah." Witch, "More than yourself? You would be the queen only because you are the wife of Macbeth. Don't you want to be the ruler of the throne with your own capacity?" That means don't want to be the king yourself. It means you don't really want to be the sole ruler of the country. Why you want to be the wife? If someone's wife means you will be the queen. The whole power will not be in your place. Lady Macbeth is, the constitution of this country do not confer the right to women to rule from the throne. It is the rule, centuries old rule, which you are saying so. Then who would break the rule? It's not Macbeth going to be king, but breaking the rule, Lady Macbeth. Macbeth's success is my success. Which, why can't it be otherwise? The witch is saying. Initially says, Macbeth's success is my success. Then witch was pushing. Why can't it be otherwise? Lady Macbeth says, it's rule, centuries old rule. So these things are there. It may be Himanshu Prasad tries to show that Lady Macbeth in the subconscious mind, Lady Macbeth, the idea of becoming the sole power of the state was there. Then what happened? There was a conversation between Macbeth and Lady Macbeth. That is very interesting. The words of Lady Macbeth to Macbeth just before poisoning him, because Lady Macbeth kills Macbeth finally. Lady Macbeth kills finally. And just before poisoning Macbeth, there is a conversation. Reflect the masculine image. The words of Lady Macbeth to Macbeth, just before poisoning him, reflect a typical masculine image in her. The conversation between Lady Macbeth and Macbeth. Lady Macbeth says, as you have discovered yourself as unfaithful, you can no longer have faith on anyone. Macbeth, now keep faith on oneself, Macbeth says. And what about you? Means he doesn't believe in anyone after that. So Macbeth is saying, what about you, Lady Macbeth? Lady Macbeth says, I am you, you are I. We are the same entity. Macbeth, darling, you, Lady Macbeth. Hey, who is there? King Macbeth suddenly died of heart attack. She has manipulated the whole story. So the image of having the power, the woman empowerment or the woman power in the power politics has been represented in the Assamese culture. But Himanshu Prasad has done a radical or bold attempt by killing her husband and becoming the sole ruler. But the thing is that in an Assamese society, it is not accepted, or in the Indian society, it is not accepted that wife should kill husband and become the sole ruler. And finally, with the interest of the audience, Himanshu Prasad thus has finally killed Lady Macbeth. This is exactly Himanshu Prasad shows his audacity in a conventional Assamese society to kill husband and become the sole power. It's a very tough thing to do on the part of the playwright. But he at the same time is trapped in the emotional thought process of the audience. If he left this play at this particular point, it would happen different. The reactions from the audience would happen different, because you are not screening or you are not staging this play in some in other state or out of the Asian countries or some other parts of the world. But in a conventional Assamese society, it's very difficult. The stage, the playwright has to think a lot about the audiences. The same thing happened in case of Parthajit Baruah's last point. I'll show that one. In a film called Hyder, that is an adaptation of Hamlet, where he has focused more on the Oedipal complex relationship between Mother Gertrude and Hamlet. In conventional Indian society, it is very rare to see a mother kissing her son on the lips. It is very rare. So Vishalji did that strong theme on the screen. This very strong theme he has projected. But unfortunately, he too, like Himanshu Prasad had to think of the audience. And finally, when the Indian audience were thinking about that particular scene, they felt, how can it be possible? But finally, Ghazala, mother, blew herself off. She killed herself off. She became a human being and killed a lot of terrorists. Then only the audience full of satisfaction. Okay, she killed herself. Lady Macbeth, kill herself. That is the expectations. Means both whether Himanshu Prasad Das or Vishalji, they have tried to represent women in a different level, but finally they are trapped in the emotional responses of the audience. Last 2 minutes, I'll show the two visuals. I'd like to wind up my story because it will be. Yes, please. So that will be good to see. This is what I'm talking about right now.
दो चेहरे हैं आपके भाई.
This ghazal, it's a Haider.
ये बाएं वाला मासूम है और ये दाएं वाला चोर.
तुझे बहकाया है हैदर. डॉक्टर साहब की मौत से हमारा कोई वास्ता नहीं.
आज जब झूठ बोले ना नहीं अच्छे लगते. अबू जी की कब्र के फूल सूखे भी नहीं थे और आपने खुर्रम के साथ घर बसा लिया. सब जानते हैं मुझे. आपने और खुर्रम ने मिलकर अबू जी का कत्ल किया.
झूठ है ये हैदर.
The audience, I'm talking about the audience responses. Before that, mother was kissing her son. And that was when audience for the first time was watching those conditions, they had the mixed reactions of that. But all of a sudden, the scriptwriter Vishal has to do something for the fulfillment of expectation of the audience. So what Himanshu Prasad did in his play, the same thing did by Vishal Baruah, because she has to die. Otherwise, if she was alive, then the whole film would have been a different story. The responses from the audience would have been different. She has to be, the Haider is more focused on Ghazala than Haider Hamlet. So I feel the way Himanshu Prasad has given the name, replaced the name from Macbeth to Lady Macbeth, the film should have been given the name as Ghazala than Haider. This is my take. Thank you. I have lot of pages.
I'm all dazed. Those were really excellent talks. I was been transported to some different worlds. I really appreciate it. We've got some time for questions. Any questions? Yeah.
Yes, I've got a question. You've raised this question which has run all the way through this conference. Has Shakespeare been able to do anything for subcontinental culture other than to get us to accept the idea of women as satis? And your final remarks have suggested that no, we're still having Shakespeare heroines who are committing sati at the end. And that seems to be an ongoing question that comes out of this conference.
Yeah, no.